happy Monday. A big welcome to all the newcomers to the group. I love seeing that group growing. I'm really excited. Thank you for the ongoing feedback and the comments and participation. I'm really loving the direction this community is going. So today what I would like to talk about is trauma. A big subject, I know, but we're going to break it down a bit. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were contemplating how the idea that trauma can be passed on through our DNA from generation to generation, that idea has really dramatically evolved in just a few years. Because I remember having a conversation with another friend of mine 6 years ago, and the idea that trauma was part of your DNA, that it was passed on through generation from your parents, was a little new agey, we'll just label it like that. It was just, there was absolutely no scientific foundings into it. And now science is getting involved very seriously, and they're analyzing all of that. It's like, yeah, trauma is actually passed on. So it's very interesting to find ourselves thinking, well, I sort of have my life sort of together, but now not only I have to take care of that, I have to take in consideration everything my parents and grandparents, great-great-parents have given me. It's like, what do I do with all that? So, okay, we're gonna chill that game down. Trauma is part of everybody's life to various extents. We all have had very traumatic experiences, again, to various extent. And the point here is not to compare somebody's trauma to somebody else's trauma. The point here is to do the best we can with what we've got. So something that I have witnessed, and something that I'm concerned that the direction may be going now that we have science telling us that trauma has been passed on and we've got that sort of unwanted gift coming down our DNA. My concern is that we're going to justify our behavior saying, hey, I've been traumatized, therefore this is why I'm acting that way. I've been traumatized, therefore this is why I'm this way. I'm just being myself is one of the worst lines that I can cope with. It's just, I can't stand that. I'm just putting that out there. When it comes to hurtful behavior, because we are not taking accountability for what is completely our responsibility. Being traumatized and suffering from trauma does not justify hurtful behavior ever. And it's something that people need to move through. It's absolutely counterproductive to point their fingers and it's like, well, whatever has happened to you, you know, you don't get to be behaving that way. That's hurtful. That's not helpful. If you notice that somebody is struggling and they have PTSD and therefore they had a moment and they flipped the picnic table, that is hurtful behavior, but shaming them for their PTSD is not going to help. Letting them know, it's like, hey, by the way, that type of behavior is not productive and you're scaring people. We need to do something about it. It is their accountability to know that, and it is our accountability as friends and family and loved ones to point it out to them. 23 years ago, oh my God, when I moved to the country, I had a roommate and she had killed her husband in self-defense, and she had to spend 2 weeks in jail to be protected from the husband's family was out to get her. Because 23 years ago in Corpus Christi, if you killed your husband because he had beaten you, you were a bad wife. So we'll let that one slip for today. But the fact of the matter is, she would have one drink and she would go into that erratic behavior that everybody said, well, you know, that's just the way she is and that's just what she does. And it's like, no, she was suffering, she was struggling, and everybody was letting her behave that way. Instead, it's like, hey, what can we do to help you? Instead of being stuck in that cycle of self-destructive behavior. It was her accountability to take ownership of that behavior. It was everybody else's accountability to be there for her and let her know, hey, that's not okay, we need to do something about this. So yes, trauma is there, it's not going anywhere. I've got my own, and I've had my own misbehavior, and it's been pointed out to me, and it's not pleasant, and it is really hard. But it is everybody's accountability to be aware of our behavior, because our trauma is expressing itself, if you would, and it is our behavior as friends and loved ones to tell people, hey, that's not okay. You know, what can we do? And the heartbreaking stage of it is, and I've experienced it, and I've witnessed it, and I've heard many stories about it, is that individuals that act out, regardless of trauma, addiction which can be caused by trauma, depression, if nothing is being done, if they're not ready to change, they're going to lose their friends. They are going to lose their loved ones. Because it's just not feasible to put ourselves through that much hurtful behavior, because eventually you're going to meet resentment. That's something that I've heard before, is that people will say, yeah, they were acting out, yes, they were doing that, but I could see that there was a progress. Even if it was just a little bit, like I could see that, you know, they were trying and they were really wanting to understand and pierce through it. And I also saw the opposite, where people were obviously struggling, they obviously were having a hard time, and their behavior was hurtful, and they completely checked out. And they said, well, that's just who I am, that's just the way I'm behaving, if you don't like it, you need to get out, which I did. So it's about trauma, it is about accountability, it is about understanding the process so we can be more present with the people that we love and care about. We can be more compassionate and forgiving with the people we don't know but seem to be acting out. We can understand how that works without using trauma as an excuse for bad behavior, and very carefully making sure that we don't feel guilty and we don't beat ourselves up because we didn't stay around people that were hurting you because of their trauma, because that's not productive either. So it's that, you know, balance and understanding and data and all that that we sort of try to figure out when it comes to things that are really heavy and really hard. However, I see people on a regular basis do better, educate themselves, really get over that hump, really embracing, okay, this is what happened, but that doesn't have to define me for the rest of my life. There is something we can do about it, and that's the exciting part. That's the happy message at the end of the Happy Monday for today. That right, it doesn't matter what happened to you before, it matters, but it doesn't matter as far as it's not going to define the rest of your life. It doesn't have to. But we need to put steps in place so that we can move through that, if that makes sense. Yes? Okay. I love to hear your feedback. Please comment, interact, connect with each other, and until next week, reach for the greatest version of yourself. You can do it. Bye-bye.